To start, the tale shows that even the gods had to roll dice to decide their fate, with Zeus getting the sky, Poseidon the sea, and Hades the underworld. Far away on the other side of the world, two Chinese kings named Xianggu and Luang were racing across the globe to see who could reach Hanzhong first. Even the legendary writer Dostoevsky is said to have penned his most famous book while being chased by collectors for gambling debts. Time jumped to the early 1900s, a time of huge growth everywhere, even across East Asia. Right here, a deadly wager was about to change everything we ever knew about the past. It happened on a stormy July 8, 1909, inside a grand building in the capital. Hayashi Kanasuke, the Japanese ambassador, beams with a warm smile as he welcomes everyone from the VIP club. Gathered around a huge wooden table, the host calls for everyone to start the night's meeting. Now that Hayashiko got the go-ahead, Minister Li Jiang doesn't hesitate. He slams a massive 50,000 on the table and declares he's raising the stakes to push the pressure hard. Seeing this, Japan's Inspector General Kuba notes that the minister appears to have come fully prepared for the occasion. Another minister who backed Japan flashes his thick pile of cash to show he's ready for this game. Minister Kabul, while sipping his drink in Hostart's trash, complains that the cash will all end up in Sunu's pocket before sunrise. But our MC Sunu fires back that it doesn't matter who tries to grab it, because the money always finds its way to the luckiest person at the table. Hearing this, Inspector General Kubota retorts that if that's true, then your luck must always be far too good. Hayoshiko admits Sunu is on a different level, but he warns that things will be much tougher for RMC tonight, making it very likely he won't walk away with the win. He shows that tonight he pulled a special surprise out of his pocket. A guest who came just to play in the game. He gestures for the men to bow at the door and invite the special guest inside. The moment they catch sight of him, everyone stands frozen in shock. No one expected the Duke to be such a flashy playboy with powerful army connections, so everyone stood up and bowed when he arrived. His full name was Suji Koen, and the big grin on his face told everyone he felt totally sure of himself for tonight. However, RMC takes things far too seriously and believes that bringing the Duke here has crossed a line. Host Hayashiko grows irritated by Sun's silence and asks where his respect for the Duke has gone. Sujie waves his hand, telling everyone to skip the formalities and just hang out like friends, keeping things nice and relaxed. He asks everyone to treat him like a friend, but someone is still lighting his cigarette, proving that friend is just a title. Kubota was shocked that someone so important would visit this humble place, but the Duke simply said he had urgent matters to handle. Sunu feels a chilling, wild fox-like evil radiating from the Duke, one that is both cruel and sinister. As he sipped his finest whiskey, our guy finally realized that the dark energy he'd been feeling lately was all caused by the stranger's arrival. After blowing out his cigarette, the Duke asks if our hero is Gue Shu, the legendary gambling master from Jose Anon. Sun says he's serious and not just there to have fun, while another member adds that rumors say this guy has already driven nobles and businessmen into bankruptcy. Our boy tells him to chill, insisting they're blowing it out of proportion and that it's just a silly rumor. Suji Uar nods, saying he heard that too, but warns that when he plays, he rarely lets anyone else win. With a quick snap of his fingers, the Duke shouts for his servant to come over. He opens a briefcase and spreads stacks of cash on the table, matching Muster's 50,000 with a cool 300,000 of his own. Hayashiko stared wide-eyed at the huge pile of cash on the table, completely shocked by how much money was there. Kubota's eyes widen, his whole body turns cold with sweat, and he starts getting really nervous. When 300,000 is at stake, the whole room feels different. Sunir kept his face calm and steady, knowing he couldn't let so much money shake him. The Inspector General says that since the Duke is there, he should start the game by dealing the cards for a hand of poker. The Duke heard the Gish team was excellent, so this time he decided to play for real. It turns out RMC's true skill is often overlooked, yet his reputation is everywhere, whispered by rumor or confirmed by those who know him firsthand. RMC watches the Duke move with the speed and skill of a magician, his hands dancing so smoothly, it looks like he's casting spells. Once the cards are mixed, the Duke asks the guy if he feels just as sure about poker as he does about his other games. RMC grinned, confident that he could spot the winning pairs. Given that, the Duke asks him to point out exactly which of these pairs are good. Man, I didn't mean to say anything, but that just made the tension in the room skyrocket. Luckily, our boy seems pretty sharp, smiling with a wild look on his face and saying that a good pair is one that simply beats the others. Taking a drag from his cigarette, Suji nodded, admitting that the rumors about Sun were true. The kid is a slick talker who knows exactly how to play with words. Right then, a servant brings over a piece of paper and lays it on the table, saying these are the rules for the game. He made everyone read the dangerous rules because only those who agreed to them could keep playing. As he flips through the papers, our hero knows the Japanese Empire loves to write everything down just to trap others. The good news is our boy knows exactly what to do and must be as clever as possible to turn this tactic against them. One by one, the players nod that they've read the rules, and then everyone chips in a stake to start the game. With everything finally in place, the Duke declares the game has begun, and you have to admit it was about time after nearly 10 minutes of waiting. As the game begins, the minister starts sorting his cards, while you can tell Inspector Kubota isn't doing well since his hand is pretty bad. Sonu isn't a fool either, so he too checks his cards. Everyone began to study the game carefully before making their move one by one. Minister Lee tries to break the awkward silence by asking the Duke what he thought of the place first. Sugiura said that the first thing he noticed was the quietness and the crackle of his cigarette. Turning his attention back to RMC, we see him studying the cards and wondering what trouble the Duke must be facing in a land where nothing should ever threaten him. To make sense of things, our MC asks everyone to picture a bird flying through a green forest, just like the deep summer in Joseon. While no one understood the joke, Duke Sugiura just burst out laughing and said they'd find out if the bird was just paying a visit or trying to take his spot. In truth, the Duke is trying to find out if Jose knows that birds eat cicadas. To lighten the mood, Sonia laughs and says yes, he knows, but since cicadas only show up in the summer, they'll just keep appearing and making noise. One minister chipped in to ask what was so urgent that the Duke had to fix it right away. Suji warns that the Crown Prince is coming soon and he heard about strange things happening. Hayashiko was shocked by what she heard and wondered if it was connected to that Shin Miho group. Suddenly, one player slams the pot up to 3001, daring our boy to throw in another 6000 or walk away. The MC says he needs one more card to reach his goal, so he can't just add 6000. He says he'll only put the money on the table because the Duke asked him to. The Duke then turns to a minister and asks if he has ever heard the strange word yobayon. Man, even the guys at the table are lost by his words, let alone me. It sounds like a chaotic mix of Arabic, German, and Japanese that is just impossible to figure out. Suji admits this term refers to people who believe they can seize control of the nation, and there are even whispers that this group is secretly building an army. But the weirdest part of this tale is how they managed to gather such a huge army, since keeping soldiers costs a lot of money. Our main character turns to the other guy and asks what he thinks about it. Before we get any answers, our main character begins to think deeply. In the end, with a smile on his face, he admits he doesn't know what's happening in the world and can only think about why the Duke would bet 10,001 on such a game. As the Duke keeps tossing out more gold and refuses to quit, the whole room starts cheering louder and more people get amazed by his wild spending. Inspector Kubota folds, flipping his cards face up to show he's out because he can't beat the amount of money on the table. Another inspector flips his cards to show nothing good remains this time, so he'll just sit back and watch. Finally, Heiriko says the very same thing and chooses to sit this one out too. Now that all the cards are out, Sugiura says the final showdown is just between him and RMC. He glances at his cards and assumes that our hero must have already won a huge pile of cash from playing these games. With a smile, RMC admits that he has won some rounds and lost others. That is all there is to it. That's when the Duke suddenly smashes his hand onto the table and shouts, ordering our hero to get off the pile of cash he's been lying on. Instead of losing his temper or puffing on another cigarette to prove he cares about their lungs, RMC calmly explains that he spent the money on fancy meals, drinks, houses, and a few good smokes. The Duke nods in agreement, so now he's all about the game. To see if our hero's courage holds true, the Duke slams another 30,000 onto the table. Hayoshiko is instantly worried. It wasn't just him. The other ministers did the same, which makes sense since betting that much money on one game is a huge risk. Lifting his hand, RMC jokes that even a proud Japanese Duke would have surrendered so easily. But he's done with talk and now stares at the only card that matters. The Ace of Clubs, which looks like a real mystery. The Duke warns our hero to back down if he's afraid, calling it foolishness rather than courage, while Sunu jokingly adds even more money to welcome the Duke with open arms. The Duke keeps his cool face, doing nothing but watching coldly and planning his next move. Finally, Suji decides it's okay this time and lets the MC take everything, believing he truly deserves it. Li Zhang stood frozen in shock, finally seeing that the Duke had been bluffing all along and had nothing left to show. He threw 30,000 down with just one ace, but Suna saw right through it and bet even more. The Duke nods, saying this warm welcome is enough for now, but next time he wants our boy to play for real. When the Duke noticed our MC holding a wooden piece, he asked what it was. So our MC explained that it was the prize given to the world's best player during a grand tournament 1,000 years ago. Suji, you're being a bit thoughtful, wondering how a piece of wood could still stand strong after 2,000 years when it should have rotted away long ago. With a grin, our MC admits he doesn't even believe his own words, since he heard that crazy tale from a drunk gambler he once met. Instead of asking where the wood came from, the Duke offers to buy it, telling the owner to name any price he wants and promising to pay it. Smiling, our boy shakes off the offer, declaring that unlike Minister Li, he has no habit of selling his own things. If the Duke really wants that piece, he'll have to win this round. The Duke slammed a pile of cash on the table and asked, "Are we ready for the next round?" Suddenly, though, he spins toward the door and invites the stranger outside to step in. Iman walked into the room wearing his military uniform, apologizing for being late, but explaining that he had to take care of some business. Suji questioned the soldier about the smell of blood and rusted iron, and he confirmed that his crew had sent a few arrogant men packing. When the news broke, everyone froze in shock and the tension in the room instantly skyrocketed, as they realized the soldier had just sent others to their deaths. The Duke whispers to his soldier about the final words of the men sent across, and the soldier leans in as Serin quietly tells the tale. After hearing that, the Duke smiled while the soldier reached for his sword. Sujie looks down at our hero and asks if the famous Gukisu of Joseon isn't afraid. Smiling, our MC admits he doesn't know exactly what he should be afraid of. Soldier Sakamoto grips his sword with white-knuckled intensity and warns that our hero will soon feel the true terror he stands to face. Sonu says that for a gambler, every moment feels like the final countdown to a big win where you're fighting hard to come out on top. This time, Sugiura snaps and points a finger straight at our MC, daring him to prove he's not the one pouring money into the Iobeon. Minister Hoyoshi Kopanik stepped in to protect our hero, but Sugiura slammed his hand down, warning the minister to shut up or get dragged down with him. Right then, silence swept through the room, hushing both the Japanese and Korean people there. English was written on every man's face except for one. Our cool MC calmly asks the Duke if he really wants to get rid of him, saying he gets the feeling but thinks it's best not to act on it over just a game. The Duke asks Sono if he truly believes he'd risk it all for just a little cash when he's got plenty to spare. Our MC chuckles and explains he wasn't talking about cash, but about the Duke's hurt feelings, which could spread like wildfire if everyone heard about his loss. The Duke grinned, mocking RMC for their funny way of begging. But the real question is, was he acting like a coward, or was he just shameless? RMC says he isn't scared of anything because his real battlefield is right there at the gambling table. He threw a pile of money on the table and declared it the weapon he would use to win the fight. The Duke tells the soldier to sheath his sword and declares that fate has decided the battle will be settled by a game. The Duke is beaming with joy because he holds a royal hand packed with kings. He knows he's about to win, so he just needs to crush his opponent's likely flush. He stands tall and certain, telling Sunu he isn't good enough to compete with him. He knew his clever boy couldn't outsmart him, and brute force wouldn't save them either with his little soldier watching right there. Just as the Duke realizes his money is vanishing in a panic, he stares in horror to see only 60,000 left out of the 300,000 he brought. As the boy sees the situation, he starts mocking him, saying that a player with good cards but little money shouldn't be so arrogant. The Duke's face twists into pure rage and shame because, for a gambler, having no money left is the ultimate humiliation. Fuming with anger, he grabs a sheet of paper to write down, "I owe you," so he can pay back the bets. He turns to one of the men and asks to borrow $1 million, but Kubota hesitates to lend that much money. RMC, who knows his stuff, grabs the rulebook and reads Article 5.1 out loud. You can only win by using the cash that was already sitting on the table at the start of the game. As I pass the paper to the Duke, the main character sighs and says it's a shame about what just happened. The Duke declares that he'll bet big on this round and asks Gusis if our guy is okay with that. Gripping a small piece of wood, our hero turns to the Duke and asks if he truly believes everything will unfold exactly as planned. The Duke is in the dark, yet he makes one last offer. If our hero wins the round, he'll live and the accusation will vanish. If our MC wins, he gets $1 million and lets Suji Uar's rival a chance to escape. This is a huge moment for our MC to choose his own future. Knowing this wouldn't be free, our MC asks the Duke what he wants in return. Suji and A pound their fists on the table, demanding the title of best player and forcing our hero to admit defeat in front of everyone. Our MC turns to the Duke and asks if a life is truly worth more than that piece of wood. The Duke offers a 1-week amnesty letter to our hero, promising that if he wins, he'll walk away with both the pardon and the prize money. But our hero shakes off the offer, declaring that he has no need for a worthless piece of paper. Sugiura shakes his head in puzzlement, failing to grasp why he can't simply ask the soldier to finish the MC off. Our hero tells us that once the Duke places his bets, every promise counts more than any title. Suji, you're not quite getting it. Ask yourself if that's really enough for a gambler. Our boy says yes and starts telling the tale of Shengu and Lu Bang, the 2 Chinese kings we mentioned at the start. Sugiura keeps the game going by betting $1 million, which he had blocked, and RMC chips in an extra 200,000. The MC explained that the pack was shattered by force, and history now records what happened to Xiangyu. After his time as a hero was over, Xiangyu died all by himself. No one expected the king to be beaten so badly when he finally arrived in Hanzong. These days, breaking a promise seals your fate like Xiangyu. So once you make a bet, you must see it through, or you'll lose everything. The last few cards are flipped over on the table, and the game hits its most tense moment. After hearing the tale of King Xiang, Sugiura gets a bit jumpy and wonders if our hero is threatening him or just thinks he can get away with it. Our boy answers calmly that he was just reminding him that the rules cannot be broken. Peering at the Duke's hand, we spot the Ace of Spades, a mighty card that could turn the entire game on its head. His growing arrogance pushes him to demand that Sunu stop stalling. He shouts, "Keep going, bet more, bet more." And our MC, fully fired up, throws every single dollar he has won plus all his original money right into the center of the table, making it clear that this is now a serious game. Sugiya gets super excited and shoves all his money onto the table, yelling that this is exactly what he meant. Everyone stares in shock at the huge pile of cash sitting right there on the table. Both players came in with a deficit, and now the real question is who will walk away as the winner tonight. Heya felt a pang of worry, doubting if they held strong enough cards to bet it all. Based on Suji's confident grin, he's acting like the hero, claiming today's win belongs to him and that the Jose era is finally over. Staring at the shiny cards on the stage, we see he pulled off an amazing hand with 4 kings in a row. The whole room erupts in applause, celebrating the Duke for being an absolute showstopper. Our boy sits there cool as a cucumber while everything else goes wild. That arrogant jerk shatters the quiet by asking why, causing everyone to go wild before they even see his hand. Suji points at the guy and shouts that he doesn't have a flush or anything close to it, so he'd better get on his knees and start begging for his life. Our boy chuckles, reminding everyone that he already gave a heads up about the poker game. He then begins to reveal his cards one by one, remembering his own words that the strong cards are the ones that beat the opponent. Another card flips over, another ace, and our boy notes that the Duke clearly forgot his own advice. With one final move, he slammed all his cards down to reveal the ultimate monster. A hand of 4 aces that crushed the 4 kings, proving the kid was truly good. The Duke can't believe our hero just earned aces. Breathing hard, he's shocked to see the man's hand is far better than his own, convinced no human could ever pull off a skill that amazing. Adjusting his hat and smiling, our MC notes that while everyone calls themselves king, the real throne isn't easy to claim. As he turned to leave, he said that the game was actually fun. Our guy snatches the bag of cash and bolts while Suji just sits there frozen at the table. This Psydog had a secret plan while the other men didn't even notice what was happening. But there was someone who saw everything and knew exactly what to do. Sakamoto, the shady commander standing right beside him. Outside the hall, Sakamoto shouts at his men to keep running and screams for the goo to stop right there. Drawing his small sword, he shouts at the proud gambler from Jose that he shouldn't have insulted the Duke. Suddenly, guards snatch RMC and he yells that the little doggy doesn't seem to get the deal he made with his master. A briefcase full of money hits the floor, and while the soldier complains that their leader planned everything perfectly, our hero laughs and tells him that the leader actually knew exactly what would happen all along. He brushes off the taunt and scores a hit on the guy. Our hero begins to fade, wondering if he really made the right choice this time. Just then, Suinyu's tiny wooden stick begins to glow, and the ancient relic that had lasted 2,000 years suddenly snaps right at the tip. The soldier stood there shaking, muttering that our hero was too arrogant to challenge him like that. As his final breath leaves his body, our hero offers a tiny smile, whispering that the only thing he didn't like was failing to pass his legacy on to someone else. But to him, that's a small price to pay since it's far better than leaving his country to a son, even though the soldier listening sees our hero as arrogant as ever. While the rain poured down and thunder roared, he grabbed that piece of wood. And then the story leaps forward 18 years to spring 1920. One worker stops to cool down, sipping a bit of water from a nearby gourd. After taking a drink, he sits back feeling relieved and ready to drive another 200 nails into the wood. As a coworker walks by, the guy jokes that for Japan to enjoy its summer, many people in Jose have to suffer, and since Korea was under Japanese rule at the time, this story serves as a history lesson that you should enjoy. But right then, a voice from nowhere shouted that they weren't breaking in on their own, but because the Japanese were behind it. Ha! It's our MC, who explains that everyone is just doing what their family needs them to do, no matter how unfair it feels, because they have no other choice. As the older worker's face grows stern, he complains that he does the same boring job every day for just $1.20, feeling like he's stuck in the dark conditions of the 1800s, and even though he works nights as a security guard, he still can't earn enough to make $4,000 a month. RMC casually sips some water, pretending not to listen while telling everyone it tastes really refreshing. The man admits he needs to win big quickly to escape, but worries good cards are hard to find, so RMC asks if he's been gambling. The older man nods, Of course he has, and there are several spots right at the entrance of Love Alley, and you have to admit that is one of the weirdest names for an alley. There's even a special spot where you can win hundreds of dollars in just one game. He looks at him with a serious face and asks Young if he knows the ropes with gambling games and the big money. Our MC shakes his head, saying he's not good at it and knows nothing about it. The older man suggests he study games after work, but our main character stubbornly refuses, saying he has no desire to head down that alley. As the supervisor chats about payday and a nearby casino popping open with all sorts of games, the excitement builds up. RMC is shocked by the news of a nearby gambling house, but his question gets cut short when a loud bell rings, signaling that workday is over for everyone. After that, all the workers ran to crowd in front of a small room, eager to get their pay. He steps inside the office, grabs a wooden nameplate, and it turns out he is the one who organizes and hands out the wages. An old man with a coughing fit is the first to get paid, and the older guy asks Sunu if he's finished counting the money. The MC doesn't get involved, but he sees the man coughing nonstop and tells the old man to take a break, since he's too old for hard work anymore. The poor old man says he can't stop because he has 6 hungry mouths to feed at home. As the old man walks away, he admits that winning the big prize is impossible for him. Just then, Uncle Pooh zipped toward us faster than light, shouting that we needed to move fast because he was desperate to place his bets. Our boy apologizes and says he'll get it done. Suddenly, the supervisor is amazed by our MC's incredible speed and demands to know how he did it. Both RMC and the workers are baffled, scratching their heads and asking exactly what's going on. The supervisor tells us that while there are hundreds of plaques with IDS on the shelf, you somehow found the perfect one instantly without even taking a good look. Thinking about it this way, the crew agrees our MC has serious skills, and some even joke that he might have supernatural powers. Another worker gets excited and asks Sunu to read his fortune, since all he wants to know is if he's destined for a life of struggle. RMC gets embarrassed, lets out a nervous laugh, and admits it wasn't superpowers, just that he finally figured it out after a few days on the job. The men barely care and crowd around with endless questions, but our hero starts to feel shy under their curious stares. One man shouted that their MC was special because he was smarter than the other students, and right then, a loud, rattling old car rolled onto the construction site, startling everyone. As soon as I stepped out of the car, 3 men appeared to announce that the Mitsui gambling house had arrived and that today's game is Shikoral. For anyone new to this, the game is just a simple guess of what 3 dice hiding in a small cup will show, and yes, it's still a kind of bet. Before anyone could blink, the guys had the tent up and the workers were rushing over, desperate to earn some extra cash. Her MC watches from afar, barely caring since he thinks the outcome is obvious and believes he's better off just getting back to work. The dealer flips the cup and announces that the first round is about to start. Some guys are fired up, with one bragging he's going to make a fortune while another warns the result will be strange. With a grin, the man asks if everyone has placed their bets, because it's finally time to see who will win. The dice were flipped to show a total of 7, which was an odd number. Some workers were disappointed by the loss, and the funny thing was I heard someone shouting oddly, but I'm not sure if it was the dealer himself. The cup is shaken once more, but watch closely, because this time the game has a special twist. There's a special rule where if you roll 4 or 5, 6, or 3 of a kind, the house wins every last penny, and it works the same way in reverse. Far from the crowd, Sunu sits quietly and listens to all the game's excitement, catching every single detail even though he isn't watching. He scribbled notes in his book, spotted a pattern, tested his idea, and it worked perfectly. He begins to realize his gut feelings are becoming sharper and sharper. He leans over the table, fighting the urge to jump in because it's not his thing, but the chance to win is so tempting he can't help himself. Then a memory surfaces of a man warning him that his punishment for being a student would be slow and cruel, with a threat that the next time would be far worse. It's better to leave his memories behind. Let's talk about the game's final score that everyone announced. Just by the sound, our guy knew the dealer was up to something in that round. He realized the sound was muffled because the dice word had tilted. The dealer gave a sly little smile as he lifted the cup to show the result. As soon as the workers spotted it, they were furious, especially since all the money from the 5th and 6th floors was going right back to the house. Our MC remembers the warning he got before. If he ever breathed outside air again, he could be locked away for a whole year. The dealer urges Mr. Kim and Mr. Rio to keep going. With the cash they have left, they might just be able to afford a bowl of rice wine. Of course, the moment they hear that, the two of them erupt in rage and order the dealer to quit his nonsense and roll the dice immediately. The dice guy begins to grin and replies, "All right, if that's what they want. So, let's play another round," he said, and with a quick flick of his wrist, the dice rolled across the floor. As he lifted the cup, 3 of a kind flashed into view, and the Mitsui gambling house claimed victory once more. The dealer, beaming with joy, asks if anyone else wants to place a bet. Then the man declared that if no one else was willing to bet, he was going to pack up and leave. But wait, because I'll be back next month, right when you get paid. But then suddenly, someone shouts for them to wait and tosses a wad of cash on the ground, and just from the way he threw it, you can already tell who it is. Sunu steps forward, but the dealer yells out that it's too late to start a new game with that massive score of -101 on the table. RMC laughs in the dealer's face, daring them to run away and claiming they're scared of a little bit of money from Jose. The dealer looks uncomfortable and thinks the question is weird, but RMC just tells him to stop stalling and start rolling the dice. One guard steps forward to yell at RMC, asking why he's with OBI and daring to cause trouble if he wants to get a free beating. Our hero spots the big guy's tiny sword and laughs it off, pointing out that if the gambling house heard a rumor someone got taken out by it, the whole place would be in trouble. The crazy dealer promises Mr. DJ that he'll sort it out, since the kid won't be happy until he's lost every last dollar. Well, if that is how it must be, he will simply grant the young man's wish. His honorary uncle gets worried because Sunu can't gamble, but the MC just smiles and says he'll try it since it's only 20-1. The dealer says it's unusual for him to start a new game over, especially when the money involved is so small. But since the guy insists, they're ready to go. The MC keeps a serious look on his face, focusing hard on what's happening. At the same time, the dealer begins to shake the cup. The clatter of the dice could make anyone nervous, but not our hero, not our guy. The kid stared at the cup, trying to figure out what was going on inside, and even turned it upside down. The dealer finally sets it down on the ground. With a little smile, he asks what the best MC will create, and the other guy replies he's going all in on a result that is 20-1. One of Sunu's co-workers spotted the dice, showing a 2 on one side and a 5 on the other, which means the total will be an odd number. The MC isn't worried at all and keeps doing what he wants. The kid is so sure the score will be even that he knows it's going to be even just because he says it is. The dealer is giddy, convinced our MC lost because everyone saw a 2 and a 5, so the final hand must be odd. Sunu quickly adds up the dice in his head, seeing a 1, a 4, and a 5 for a total of 10, an even number. Everyone is itching to find out the result, but the dealer is stubbornly refusing to lift the cup yet. But that's when the real result appears. The dice land on 1, 4, and 5, proving our MC was right because their total is an even number. The work crew erupts in cheers right away, with one guy praising the kid's smart move while another yells at him to keep quiet, so he doesn't ruin it. With a little smile, our boy thinks it's all just luck since he only won 20-1, so it's really not a big deal. While the dealer grumbles and has to hand over the 21 chips, he's clearly the only one not enjoying the game. Our boy snatches the cash with a grin and instantly urges them to skip ahead to the next game. Holding the cups and dice, the dealer says he'll get us started in that case. As the slick steer shakes the cup, our MC, who can hear like a mutant, starts listening to the sound of the dice. Inside his head, he hears the distinct clicks of the dice as they settle on a 1, a 3, and a 4. Since that's true, the answer is 8, which is just another even number. Suddenly, the noise shifts and he realizes it's a 6, another 6, and a 2, adding up to 14, which is still an even number. The dealer smashes the cup down on the ground, ready to reveal what's inside. Now that the game is ready, it's time for our main character to place his bet. The kid clutches his entire stash of 41 coins and makes a bold move by betting on an odd number for the first time. The dice rolled to show a 7, an odd number, and I have to admit, this kid is too good at this game. If they put him on any numbers, he'd be a millionaire. As the crafty kid wins 81 in a single round, the workers start thinking our MC is seriously amazing. The dealer just laughs it off as beginner's luck, sure that the kid will be in big trouble once those 4, 5, and 6 cards show up. He forces a smile and hands the money to our MC once more, this time admitting he truly feels like a lucky man. Our hero retorts that it's not luck at all, but rather that the dealer plays with such terrible skill. Oh my friend, that really sets the house guy's teeth on edge. Before they even finish the round, the next game is already set. This time, the big cash from his recent win is on the line, and the dealer is desperate to hit a winning sequence like 4, 5, and 6 just to make the house win. If you bet your entire stack right away, the house is guaranteed to win because you will eventually hit a losing streak and run out of money. If the house can land a special roll in just 10 tries, that's all they need to make up for what they lost. RMC covers his winnings with his hand and declares he's ready to bet it all. This time, his bet is on an odd number just like in the last round. The dealer grows suspicious of the kid's confident talking and wonders what makes him decide so fast. He's convinced the guy will finally get it right this time, but will he really? The moment he lifts the cup, the answer jumps out, 1, 3, and 5, which means odd. After playing for a bit, our hero won 6 times in a row and now holds 1,281 points. The dealer grew nervous because he never expected to face someone so skilled, especially since he had no idea that our hero was once a master gambler in another life. The slick dealer knows it's not luck, and the strangest part is that the dice belong to the house, so our hero can't be using any tricks. Senu's co-workers feel the danger of a bet climbing to over 10,000 after just 3 more wins, while the MC, knowing what he's doing, starts to annoy the dealer by complaining that the game is taking too long to start. The house guy snatches the cup, and you can tell he's really stressed this time. Nasaru locks his eyes on the game, but he's also got a sneaky plan up his sleeve to trick his opponent in the RMC. RMC, who isn't fooled by anything, catches the tiny shift in the dice's sound, which tells him the dealer is using that tilted dice trick. The smooth chair is trying to change the game by nudge the dice so they hit the cup's wall just right. He plans to spin the cup on its side really fast. Even though this trick would flip the number our MC picked against him, he's a master at spotting the dealer's sneaky dice swap. Yet there's one catch. The dealer won't even know what the other dice rolled. Our clever MC can hear every click of the dice, telling him the pips are 1, 1, and likely 3. Our hero keeps his whole stash safe and declares that the next number will be odd. The dealer grins in surprise at our MC's boldness, then double-checks with the other player to make sure he's really going down on odd. He felt sure of himself until Sunu made him question his own guess about whether he might be wrong. Even the crazy man won't dare lift the cup, yet the dice are already out, showing a 1, a 2, and a 3. The sun is 6, folks, which is an even number. The worker is crushed to learn that our hero lost $1,000 all at once. The dealer looks just as shocked and even yells out another winning name, clearly confused about what just happened. On the other hand, RMC is feeling as happy as a clam. Oh, hold on, when the sequence 2 then 3 pops up, it actually means the player has won, just like how 4 5 6 usually wins for the house but flipped around. The dealer freaks out, blaming himself as a fool, because he finally realizes that no matter how hard he tries to change things, the perfect ending will never happen. With his glasses askew, the man can't help but wonder who this kid is. He couldn't believe it because he had never lost 7 times in a row, not even once, twice, or 3. The fool didn't just lose his own money. He also squandered the workers' winnings, ending up with nothing but a pile of zeros. With no words left, the man admits defeat and says he can't pay, prompting Sonu to complain that the fund had just begun. The dealer falls to his knees, begging for forgiveness and promising that next time he will bring more money. RMC lets out a laugh and says it's fine, because in the end, there's not much we can do anyway. There's no choice but to admit the guy has lost and let him walk away. So, our guy waves goodbye to the dealer and warns him to be careful on the trip home. Turning to the workers, our MC tells them one thing for sure. Those guys are never coming back. For no clear reason, everyone began cheering for the guys like they were bad guys, even though the crowd had all chosen to play for fun on their own. Worried that the noise might make officials think we're protesting and cause trouble, our MC asks everyone to whisper. One of his friends tells our hero to chill out, since the officials are hiding away on a quiet beach to celebrate their win without any worry. Holding a box full of money, Sunu tells all the uncles to stand in a line right in front of him. The boy is about to return every penny he took, and the uncle beside him is stunned to think he'll actually give back half the cash he's holding right now. A bit later, our MC hands out the money again and asks the uncle to take it. The man's heart swells with emotion as he receives such a massive fortune, and it's impossible to tell if our hero is returning just the right amount or even more than expected. Then the man asks when our MC must pay back the debt, but Sunu says there's no need. He only wants to know the MC won't gamble again. The uncle cries and thanks him, promising never to do it again, and you definitely won't, right, old Tamer. Now alone, Sunu walks to the edge of the pier to say goodbye, relieved he didn't stay long enough to get too attached to the place. Besides, he's already made a big mess. If he stays there, he'll never find a moment of peace. Next, we see a house so quiet you can almost hear it holding its breath. This is the home where our main character lives. The kid is packing his bags because he's finally decided to go. Just as he was about to go, guess who walked right in? 2 men rush forward, and the worst part is our boy starts getting hit with merciless punches just like last time. With one hard punch, the kid was sent flying straight into the wall. The guy is a bit confused by the attack, but he quickly realizes it's all about the money. He's left with no choice but to shout that there's a fire on the 2nd floor to distract them. The man yells at the MC to stop screaming, saying there's no use shouting that it's the Ahmad Gumi's backyard because yelling won't change a thing. As we cough, the MC tries to explain a mix-up, but the other guy doesn't wait and throws a hard punch right into his stomach. Then, a sharp kick to the face sends him crashing down to the floor. Next, a flurry of slaps hits his head, and to end it all, the jerk grabs the main character by the hair. The man tells the guy to hush, but he just won't stop talking. Then a 3rd person walked in, stepped closer, and asked if that was the subject. The bully points out that the man is Sunu, and the gambler from the house walks over to confirm it too. Suddenly, a man bursts in and delivers another sharp slap to the guy's face. The boss demands, "Where is all the money?" So RMC, knowing he must survive in this real world, points to the briefcase while the dealer immediately gets angry upon opening it, demanding to know where the rest of the cash is gone. The man grabs Sunu again and demands to know where the rest of the money is, but when Sunu claims he only spent a little, the big guy clearly doesn't believe him. Our hero pauses, lost in thought, since he simply has no answer to offer. The large guy in the back warns his partner to hold off, knowing that the kid will eventually spill the location of the money because there is no place left for them to escape to. Sonu then wonders if he's supposed to pay for this himself and asks if that counts as breaking the law now. Without a word, he takes another hard hit to the gut, so you better keep quiet and just stay safe, my friend. The man warns him to keep quiet, asking if he's forgotten that no one lives after the Yamatasi bite the sharp blade at his neck. The big guy warns that any funny business will mean lights out, but our MC just shrugs and notes that if he keeps hitting him so hard, the big guy might not even make it to the destination in one piece. As for where they're going, the four of them set off. Our hero is crammed tight inside the cart with barely any room to move. The kid grumbles about the cramped car and begs everyone to stop pushing, pointing out a tiny gap on the side for him to take. The big guy snaps back that the kid is being too bold and wonders if he wants another little gift. RMC Cheek acts like he can do whatever he wants, but don't forget we all owe him. The big guy, who knows the answer to everything just like the kid, hands him another little gift to teach him a lesson. Even with a swollen face, the guy feels totally fine now that everyone owes him 4 favors. 1 for the lost cash and 3 for the punches. The car drives down a lonely, long road up to a big mansion sitting on top of a hill. But eventually they do make it there. Of course, Sue is pulled outside while being treated with the utmost care. Elsewhere, they take our hero to a bathfish. The big guy tells Boss Aum that the kid is caught. The boss climbs out of the water to show off his big dragon suit. Oe Bum turned to the kid and said, "Sonu is way younger than I thought." He sat there totally relaxed and comfortable, very calm as he listened to the full explanation. The boss gave the green light so everyone can talk things over calmly later. He wants to know exactly when Sonu first met Cop Koboi, the man who deals for us. Our boy shakes his head, saying he knows nothing about it since this is the first time he's ever heard the name Koboi. The big guy didn't like the MC's little laugh, so he punched him right away. The guy fights back, but the brute won't stop. The kid gets lucky when the boss yells Baba to stop his own subordinate. The boss reveals that he and Koba plotted the whole scam from the very start. There's our dealer, Koba A, pleading for his life and saying he knows nothing and would never betray the boss's trust. But with no excuse to make things right, he gets a beating too. Our slick MC tries to call the boss, hoping to smooth things over. Nope, it doesn't help much, so in the end he still gets hit. Baba couldn't stand the young man's rude behavior at all, insisting he be addressed as sir instead of you. The boss tells Baba again to stop taking things so literally and just listen to what the kid has to say. The henchman finally backed down and agreed. The guy steps up to the boss and starts talking to defend the dealer. He tells him that there was no cheating or secret deals in the game. He says the only real change is that he's a bit more skilled now, so our games of chance will end differently. The hedgeman and the dealer are truly impressed by how brave the kid is. Even Bubble felt a bit embarrassed because the guy did have a point. The boss chuckles at the kid's boldness and wonders if he truly turned 21 into 200,000 just by using his skills. And yes, that's exactly the key detail that solves everything. With a grin, our MC chuckled and admitted he'd have come away richer if the men had brought along a bit more cash. So, Yamadists immediately steps up to challenge the kid to a trick and orders his men to bring out the gambling gear. Later, with the cup and dice sitting on the table, the boss challenges Sunu to prove that his skills are truly this good. Thinking things over, the kid figures out how to handle the noise of the dice rolling in that echoing spot, knowing he can still make sense of everything. Sure, the quiet sounds here can't match the loud shouts of the workers from before. Our MC, absolutely sure of himself, challenges anyone who dares to bring it on. So the boss drops the 3 dice into the wooden cup to start another small bet. The boss begins to shake the dice. A rumble began to shake the whole building. Sunu closes his eyes and listens only to the sound. The first thing he notices is that the boss is acting normally, not like a shady player from the past who tries to cheat the results. He throws the cup down on the table with a loud crash. The boss grinned and asked our hero to guess the outcome. Our boy insists he won't play unless there's a bet, and the boss calls him a real rascal but admits he likes that kind of boldness. The boss dares to bet his own life against Kobaya's, promising great rewards if he wins but terrible trouble if he loses, even though the narrator earlier made a silly mistake about the time passing, and our hero, though pretending he wouldn't risk his life, agrees to the dare just because the boss asked. The dealer, though he respects the man's talent, is stunned by the kid's boldness to risk everything and gulps down hard when RMC shouts the word dog. The dice showed 5, 6, and 2, adding up to 13, my friend. The henchman is shocked that the kid guessed right, but the dealer is just glad he's alive. Bubba starts to wonder how that could happen and how he gets such a result. With the victory in hand, our guy turns to leave, telling them he's already won and it's time to go, while the kid looks incredibly bold. Baba firmly places a hand on his shoulder to hold him there, declaring that no one was allowed to let him go. With a big grin, Yamada finds the whole thing funny, calls the guy lucky, and asks, how about one more bet? RMC, who usually avoids betting when things are going well, asks what the bit will be this time. Yamada offers a daring new deal. If RMC wins, Yamada wipes the slate clean on the lost cash, but if RMC loses, the debt becomes Yamada's burden, forcing him to cough up at least 100,000. With the cup set on the table, the boss officially closes the challenge. This time, Bubba watches RMC closely to catch any sneaky moves, but Senu stays as calm and cool as ever. The dealer, knowing he's been saved, keeps a close watch on everything, but he can't shake the fear. The other hedgeman, standing right there in the room, doesn't worry at all since the mess isn't his problem and he's just curious about it. The boss finds it hilarious that someone finally dares to be this bold with him. When we get back to our guy, he says the answer will be odd. She lifted the cup to show the dice were a 4 and a 3, proving once again that our hero was right, even if the result felt strange. Well, the boss is getting really worried this time because the kid got it right again. The dealer is stunned, but the henchman isn't, since he's gotten used to it. Even though I was sweating a bit, I confirmed that the total was 11, which is an odd number. RMC says he's already figured it out and suggests trying a new round, but this time with real money. Before the boss can agree, he asks what secret allows the man to guess results so perfectly, and our hero simply replies that it's just a lucky knack he was born with. The boss stopped answering and just shouted, "Hey, Bubba, get to work." And Bubba knew exactly what to do right away. And just like that, he lands another hard punch right in our hero's stomach. Curled up tight, our hero whispers that these endless whispers of love are finally starting to wear him down. Imad asks the guy from Jose one final question, hoping that if he learns how the result was reached, he can walk away without a fight. RMC yells that he isn't lying, insists he was just born with a good nose for things, and says there are no secrets to tell. Man, that makes the boss super stressed because he clearly doesn't believe the guy will answer for Baba one more time. Just as the henchman was about to hit him again, our hero yells for him to stop and finally promises to tell him his secrets. The boss nodded and agreed that it was a good idea. His curiosity about the secret makes him unable to rest. Instead of answering, RMC asks a surprising question about how the boss got his job. The bomb guy is shocked again by the man's boldness and asks if Suinyu is actually speaking to him. The kid starts talking in riddles, saying he knows a path to save the boss from this crazy, dangerous place. He's figured out a secret that will make the boss's punch hit harder and scarier than anyone else's. The boss stared at him with a frown, confused by what was happening. The MC rises and steps toward the man. The guy claims he's just like the boss and says he'd be lost if anyone asked him about his luck. He speaks plainly to say that he can't explain why he's lucky, because he just simply has it. The only thing that makes all this different is something really simple. He's got luck that no one else can match, and even though our wild MC talks strange, we've all been left speechless by it. Bob is so mad at the kid using his insulin that he's about to lose his temper. But the boss, hearing the high-pitched screeching, tells him to calm down. The boss wants to know if all of this really happened or if it was just made up. So he commands his team to fetch the Hanafuda cards, a special deck from Japan. The boss tells the man that if he proves himself right, he can go home safely, but he'll have to leave his little ham stuck on the knife's handle. If the boy is wrong, he's going to meet his end sooner rather than later. A box of cards sits on the table, and the fate of our guy hangs in the balance, ready to be decided by this challenge. The boss asks Suinyu if he knows the rules, and the guy replies that he knows just as much as anyone else, no more and no less. Imatada replies that the cards show the changing seasons, with each one standing for a month in the year. Bang spreads the cards across the table and says that the folks in Jose are usually up for this game. The challenge is easy. If the son picks the best card, he wins, and you can see just how simple that is. Our MC smiled and said no, refusing to play in a game he felt was pointless. I really like that guy's attitude. That guy is the craziest bet you could make right now, and you'd have to be insane to do it. Imid is no fool and won't bet another coin, so he stakes Sunu's own life instead. Once again, they agreed to the same deal. If our MC wins, the debt is wiped away and they'll even forgive his arrogance. But if the guy loses, besides being cast into the great beyond, they'll start by ripping out his tongue first. Now the air around RMC is getting a little bit tense. Imada asks if he has any questions, and he just nods to say the only way to win is to pick the best card from the deck. The boss looked puzzled by the question since he had already talked about this before. But Sonu says he only asked because his style of playing was different, and he wanted the boss to know about it before they began. The guy picked the January card right away, and the boss, beaming with happiness, asked him why he didn't choose the best one instead. Oh man, with a grin he pulls out his tiny blade, desperate to use it on our hero. But before he could make a move, our boy told him to chill out and just watch for a second. He reaches out and picks up the next card from the table, the one showing February. After that, he pulls out the next card to go with them, laying the ones from March and April right next to each other on the table. He pulls out May, June, and July, and the guys are amazed at how he's getting the whole year right. As he turns over the October card, he explains that every single card up to this point was worth the exact same amount. But from November on, everything shifts, for the Phoenix card in Japan marks the start of a new reign. But in Joseon, the Rain Man is the ultimate ace of them all. This time, the boss was amazed to see the full sequence laid out on the table, since the kid had guessed every single month in the right order. With this, Bum finally realizes he thought too little of the guy's skills. With a grin, our MC asks the boss if he needs anything else. Feeling he's finally paid off his debt, the kid just turns around and walks away. But deep inside, Yamada knows this guy isn't just a kid. He's way more dangerous. The boss tells Baba to walk the young master right out the door. Baba is puzzled as to why his boss is treating that guy with such respect. Just as Sunu was about to go, Yamada called out again, begging him to wait just a little longer. Our MC spins around, puzzled and wondering if he'll ever escape, only to sit and hear the boss apologize and suddenly call him young master. With a cigarette dangling from his lips to clear his lungs, the guy was startled by the sudden shift. Just as Bob lights his cigarette, the very man who was beating him up, Yamada, asks if the young master would like a drink. Since Yamada is paying, the guy doesn't want to be rude and asks for a very cold beer. With the guy sipping his beer, the boss remarks how rare it is to find talent like Jose. But our MC isn't a fool and knows nothing here is free, so he tells the boss to just get to the point. Yamada then asks the guy why he chose such a flashy and risky plan. He asks what the other guy would have done if the officials had shown up instead of him. Our hero downed the entire beer in a single gulp. He even slams the plate hard onto the table, like he's begging for another bite. He admitted that watching all his coworkers lose money made him so furious he could no longer hold back. Yamato then asks if our hero planned to teach the arrogant ones a lesson. Our MC nodded, saying that was exactly how it felt. The boss called Cobb to ask if he'd heard the answer, and the nervous Cobb nodded and said, "Yes, I got it." Yamada looks back at their MC and says he's thankful because he proved that you can always find someone better. Lifting his glass, our MC replies, "You're welcome," right before Yamada jumps up and insists they move to a prettier spot for a proper drink. Our MC thanked them for the invite but said, "That's enough for today." Yamada insists it's no trouble and will pay the bill, so the kid can just have fun tonight, while the boss heads out to get ready and says he'll be back to meet them soon. Our hero said yes, but he's still watching closely. Later that night, they find themselves in a more traditional setting. A stunning woman appears and announces that Mr. Yumatada has finally shown up. Yumatada bursts in all excited and tells hostess Tabati to get ready the best company she can think of. Sabati promises to do her best for both of them and tells them to just wait a moment. But then, something grabs the woman's eye. She gazes at our hero's foot and notices it is covered in grime. So she walks over and asks if she can wash the man's feet. After a short while, everyone was sitting at the table, and Yamada urged the main character to start eating and drinking because the night ahead was going to be long. Sonu stares at the boss with a puzzled look, wondering why everyone is celebrating so much without knowing the real reason. Yamada asks if it's not clear that they are celebrating the bright future of their new business together. Our MC starts guzzling drinks since he has no idea what's happening and even asks what this proposal is all about. Yada suggests they join forces to form a crew and then seize control of Inchan's gambling halls. Many didn't see that coming and never guessed it was what he really wanted all along. The boss asks the guy if the thought of taking over the world makes him happy. Watching Yamada grin, our MC knows something's up, and the poor guy has absolutely no idea how he ended up in this mess. He got pulled into the game without even knowing it. Turning back to Yamada, he explains that the boss was wrong because he never planned to become a gambler. After serving time in prison for his gambling, he vowed that he would never wake up behind bars again. Yamada grins and assures him that since he has the guy under his watch, the police will never be a threat. Our MC shakes his head and says he won't stuff his belly on food stolen from the poor. On top of that, the national law bans gambling for everyone, even the nobles, and while Yamada claims to know a lot, he clearly doesn't grasp how the industry actually works. He explains that laws and punishments are just stories told in the cities, while Incan is a world all its own. That spot was built just for outsiders and is so hard to watch that absolutely anything can happen there. He asks if Sunu has ever been to a rice auction, and the guy says no, noting only that the place is so big it's said to be comparable to Tokyo. The boss nods and says, "That's it right there at the rice auction house. The swirling center where money flows and dreams take flight. Important figures from Japan are placing massive bets there, with thousands of wanda making local money look like child's play." Sunu begins to realize that there are wealthy Japanese folks in Incheon who are ready to spend big. Seeing the main character just staring into space, Yamada cuts right to the point and asks if he's in on the fun or not. RMC speaks only a little, but who wouldn't want to know how much money is flowing through the city? With a heart pounding with possibility, Msek is convinced that if he can pull off a single night of 500,001, he'll finally make his big dream come true, so he decides the risk is totally worth it. The OA Bomb, the nickname for the Yakuza bosses, cracked a small smile, admitting he knew the MC would say yes, but now it was time for a very important story. This tale was about the strongest power inside Ian that always calls the shots. RMC instantly assumes Yamada is talking about the army, and Yamada confirms he's right by explaining that after the war, Ian turned into a military town filled with Japanese army bases. With soldiers everywhere, the police can't control the high-ranking officers, so the MC wonders if gambling is really what they're after. Yamada says they are chasing the excitement of winning and the rush of danger, because their soldiers have already felt the thrill of war and faced the very end early on. These days, their quiet civilian life feels so boring and empty that they can't seem to get through a day without a drink, a pretty face, or a gamble, but out of all those fun things, only gambling gives them the real rush of risking actual money on the line. RMC thinks to himself that he doesn't need to hear all that, because he knows better than anyone just how thrilling high-stakes games really are. Not too far from the IN port lies the Jimabo Club, a spot that started as a simple hangout but is now the home of the Japanese Veterans Association. These days, the club only opens its doors to top-ranking officers, ultra-wealthy folks, and a few very special guests, where something truly extraordinary happens every night that no one could ever imagine. The kid gets it, but he's puzzled by the plan. If they know where the real money is, why steal change from workers instead of just taking it from the Japanese? Yamato calmly warns that every big chance hides a big danger, saying jumping into the Jamapo glove to gamble is like walking onto a battlefield without a sword, which no sane person would do. Then our hero gets it. Yamada wants him to become his very own blade. Yamada admits he'd be pretty bummed if the MC said no, but since he doesn't expect to work for free, he'll just take a 20% cut of all the profits. The MC ponders this and realizes that, by that logic, he looks pretty good with the 20%, especially since he's not risking his own cash. Given that, the kid nods and says first things first, they've got to get the number right. Just as they were talking, a young woman popped out of nowhere to ask if the MC wanted another drink. Totally lost, Yamada asks what numbers he's talking about. So the MC explains that before they team up, they need to figure out a deal that's fair for both of them. Yamada took a sip of his drink, chuckled at the MC's boldness, and decided to listen anyway. The kid sets his first rule. No more taking money from the poor folks of Joseon. The moment he hears the demand, Yamada's face shifts with a hint of annoyance. Actually, he wasn't stressed at all. Yamada figured it was fine as long as the MC's profits covered everything, meaning the kid could go to the Gem Up Oak Club, stuff his pockets with cash, and they'd never need to ask for spare change again. The second rule is that he won't be forced to follow orders and can leave this mess whenever he wants. And on top of all that, he absolutely won't settle for just taking a tiny 20% of the earnings. The instant he hears it, Yamada snaps and smashes his glass against the wall. You can bet your bottom dollar he's really off. It's hard to say if Yamada or Baba was the one who threw the glass. I say that because the big guy is charging straight at our MC with a look that's anything but friendly. As Baba Charge bursts in, a girl screams in terror, but it's too late because the brood has already grabbed our MC by the collar. Just then, Yamada shouts that he tried to be nice, but his patience is about as big as a drop of pee. The MC calmly reminds the boss that he was the one who called him a good sword, and without that sharp blade, he'll never be able to reach the Gem Up Oak. Yamada pauses at the argument, knowing deep down that the kid is absolutely right about the worst part. Keeping his cool, the MC offers him a choice. Smash the sword with his own hands and live the rest of his days picking up pennies, or treat it well and use it to conquer everything, because the MC knows he's not the type to let a favor go unpaid. Frustrated by the kid's slick words, Yamada tosses him an offer of 30% and asks if that's enough. Our MC flatly refuses, saying he won't accept less than 40%. Yamada shoots back that the kid is way too bold, since he's the one paying for everything. Full of confidence, our boy says he might be right, but he's the one who will make the money grow 10 or even 100 times. Lost in thought, Yamada starts to wonder if that monster from Jose might actually be able to make his money grow 10 times over. After finally agreeing that the kid has a special talent, He seals the deal with 40% going to the MC and 60% to himself. But the kid better brace himself for serious trouble if his plan fails, because now that he's acting all confident instead of humble, he's got to win or face 100 days of special spa time. The MC turns to Bub and notes that Bub's dad is now his business partner, even though the big guy is still grabbing him by the collar. Our hero didn't even hesitate for a second before landing a hard punch right in Bubba's face. The punch barely helps and just sends Bubble running. But the kid warns Bubba that the fight isn't over and that he still owes 6 more punches to pay off the debt. Bubba, seething with rage, begs for just one more quick hit on the MC, but the boss slaps his hand away and yells, "Enough! Let's get the party started. Let's stop talking about work and start doing the way more fun things there." Baba finally gives in, knowing deep down he has no choice but to do what he's told. So they sat down at the table, and the MC told Bubba to forget the 6 punches, saying that for now, the only way to pay off his debt was by serving him properly. Seeing that scene, Yamada bursts into laughter and jokes that the MC is a genius at handling people since he just embarrassed Bubba in front of everyone. But then the drinks start pouring, and the whole place instantly loosens up. After a while, Yamada asks the MC how he's feeling, but the kid is totally lost and can't quite grasp what she's really asking. The boss then asked if we liked Tabati, the young woman who had been serving him. As soon as she hears this, Tabati turns bright red and stammers that Mr. Yamada is making her blush. But as she draws near, she makes her true intentions clear. She scoots right up next to him until the space between them feels warm and cozy, prompting the not-so-saintly RMC to bluntly ask Yuma what kind of fool would ever say no to a beautiful woman. She practically melts into his arms, thanking him for his sweetness and saying his compliment made her whole day. Yamada can't believe his ears, noting that it's a rare treat to see Sabati show interest in anyone. Right after that, he tells everyone he's leaving so the 2 love bears can get to know each other better. Before Yamada heads out, he tells the MC that the bill is covered, so he can stay and drink until he's completely exhausted without worrying about a thing. The MC explains that the bill isn't the issue. He's completely broke with no way to get home. Hearing this, Yamada asks why he'd ever go back to that shabby, dilapidated place when he has a cozy spot, great food, and free drinks right here. And to top it all off, there's Subibody, who's sweet as a flower and clearly smitten, leaving poor MC wondering how to handle such a tough life. Anyway, Yamada is just showing a little kindness, so the MC shouldn't feel pressured and can just enjoy himself. Our hero begins to suspect that this kindness is too good to be true, knowing he'll have to work his tail off to pay for it all. Sabati tells him the bed is ready in the room next door and wishes him a peaceful night. Once inside, the kid walks over to the window to take a look at the view. Instead of snuggling up with his girlfriend Tabati, he lights up a cigarette to clear his mind. But really, he's watching everything down below and sees the place crawling with goons who aren't there to protect him, but to make sure he doesn't run. The kid starts to panic, wondering what to do when he's in real trouble. Sabati walks over to him and asks if something is bothering him. As he turns to answer, our MC spots Suddy sitting on the floor in a very respectful pose. She's so kind that she'll even call for a friend if he's not having a good time with her. The kid shakes his head fast and says that's not what he meant at all. Hearing that, Sabati feels a wave of relief and turns a little pink, glad she wasn't the one in the wrong. With a bright smile, our charming hero declares that he needs no one else, for her presence is all he requires. So folks, it's become our channel's habit lately. Every new story I share ends with a little heat, so let's just say the night for our main character was wild and memorable. The next day, Yamada asked the MC how his night had gone. Our smart MC asks Yamada which part of the story he wants to hear, knowing that since she locked him in, she already knows everything. Before they head out, the MC tells Bubba to grab some shoes from the boarding house so he won't have to walk around barefoot. Yamada just tells him to pick up any old pair of work boots and follow along, since they've got some shopping to do. Soon, the pair reached a tailor's shop so the main character could dress up to fit in with the fancy crowd. Once he arrives, Yamada tells the tailor to grab the finest spring and summer fabrics and make at least 12 suits. The tailor's jaw drops at the huge amount of fabric, yet he nods to take the order and asks them to wait just a second. In the meantime, Yamada stands there, an expert, as he looks over the different fabrics. After examining them closely, he decides to take everything except for one that he doesn't like. After standing for so long, Bianca, who is the boss, finally sits down to wait. RMC asks him why he bought 12 suits when he only needs a few. Yamato chuckles and says buying them all was worth it, then shushes the MC so he won't distract the tailor. As the tailor measures the MC, he praises his strong build and jokes that the suit will fit perfectly, which honestly feels a bit strange when a stranger is touching you and talking about your body. Yamada slides over a thick wad of cash and tells the suited men that everything is urgent, but the gray suit must be finished just 2 days from now. The job has to move fast and stay perfect, with no room for delays. The tailor promises he can be trusted, even pulling an all-nighter to make sure the order is done on time. Right after that, their car shoots forward because the shopping list is long and time is running out, so they have to go. Sitting in the car, the MC asks the boss why he bought so many suits, joking that maybe he's planning to sell him off to a rich widow. Hearing this, Yumatada bursts out laughing and says that's a great idea, since the kid looks handsome enough to catch the eye of any noblewoman or even a few noblemen. If the MC loses a ton of cash, Yamato warns him that she'll find a way to get her investment back, even if it means selling him off to a wealthy widower. As the shopping spree goes on, our MC ends up with 4 brand new pairs of shoes. To finish his style, he also puts on a shiny belt made from real cock skin leather. And to make it even better, there's a leather briefcase that looks like it holds something very important. Back in the room, Yamada told one of his worst enemies that spending money is a job he really hates. Our MC leaps at the chance to say that's exactly what he's been talking about, pointing out how much money is being wasted for no reason at all. Yamada reassures him that the MC looks great in anything, making the investment worth it, then turns to his nodding henchman Bubba and asks for his thoughts. As the drinks arrive, the air at the table grows heavier and more tense. Fed up with the charade, the MC has had enough and demands to know the real reason behind this whole act. Yamada stays calm and says the reason is simple. A nobleman's son must dress that way, and that is all. Confused, the MC just asks what on earth the nobleman's son is talking about. In that moment, our MC thinks back to his lonely orphan days and realizes that without his gambling tricks, he would have been dead long ago. The boss grabs a stack of papers, shoves them into the MC's hands, and warns him he'd better read and memorize every last word. It seemed like some kind of official paper. Yamada cuts straight to the point and tells him that from now on, this is who the kid is. The MC grabs the papers and tries to figure out what kind of wild identity this was. As he reads the papers, our hero meets his new self, Yuya Seiji, a man born in Kyoto in 1908 who studied at Keio University for a year before quitting. Yamada promises that his forger is so good the passport photo won't be a problem, which makes the MC wonder if he actually likes his new name. The MC skips the question and dives straight into the real mystery. Who is this person? Yamada points at the papers and sneers, asking if he really doesn't know how to read. Our MC then tries to understand this fake identity, but the one thing he can't figure out is why they need such a complicated plan. The boss says it's simple. Since you're from Jose, the fancy crowd at the Gemma Boat Club will never let you join unless you have a famous last name. Finally, the MC gets it. The fancy crowd only plays with people they really approve of. Yamada kept arguing that a random student's idea could work for bets of 5,000 to 10,000. But this was a different game where larger wagers meant diving deep into your opponent's past. After hearing the explanation, the MC nods and says, if that's what Master Yakuza Yamada says, then I have nothing more to add. Yamada didn't like the kid's sarcasm and thought he was getting too bold by calling him Master Yakuza. This time, Bubba gets furious and starts yelling at the kid for his boldness. Yamada just laughs and says the MC walked in as a businessman and wouldn't be foolish enough to tell an army officer he follows the Yakuza's dangerous path. That's why it was so important for him to become Seojuya, because no one would listen to him otherwise, and I had to admit that sounded a bit weak. But since the Yakuza boss said it, it was done. The kid stares at the paper again and wonders if the name Yuya will fool everyone since he looks like just any regular college dropout. Yamada nodded, explaining that the name Yuya doesn't carry much weight since he's just a young student who isn't quite ready to mix with the powerful adults. But the real story is that this man's last name, Oji, belongs to one of the Seiki clans, and until recently, ordinary people couldn't even hope to speak to someone with that title. Hearing this, our MC is curious about how such a vital document ended up in this quiet colonial town. Realizing he was part of the Seiji family, the kid understood he belonged to a clan of such high status that even among Japan's finest nobles, which finally explained why everyone was wearing such expensive suits. Yamada keeps on saying that even nobles can lose everything, from their land and treasures all the way to their own soul, if they fall into gambling debts with crazy interest rates. Desperate and with nothing left to sell, he traded his own identity for survival, which is why those documents ended up in Yamada's hands. Marking the moment a proud nobleman was forced to take a terrible deal and sell out. The MC wraps up his plan to pose as a noble for the club, and Yamada nods in agreement, praising the kid's perfect Japanese. Yamada jokes that with this change, the MC won't get skewered by a bamboo spear just for messing up his words. Our MC wasn't amused at all and retorted that the joke was painfully bad-tasted. Yamada's voice drops as he reveals the club they're heading to is a den of powerful marines and Japanese nobles. If he makes even the tiniest mistake, our boy is going straight back to the lobby. That kid has to be super careful, and most of all, nobody can ever find out who he really is. Yami promises he won't make a mistake, but he is truly worried that the concubines heard every word they said the day before. With a smirk, Yamada teases if he looks like someone who can't handle it, promising they'll stay quiet to avoid trouble, before the MC asks what their backup plan is if they meet someone who truly knows the real Seoji. The boss tells us that the real Yuya isn't some social butterfly at Alan Eccentrics who locked himself away in gambling dens, so the chance of anyone there knowing him is practically zero. Our MC can't stand the thought of ignoring that chance, since his life hangs in the balance. But Yumatada retorts that he couldn't look so calm if he didn't realize how much those papers are worth, and he points out that the money MC plans to bet is an enormous amount. Happy with the reply, the MC asks another question. What kind of gambling games are played at the Gym Up Oak Club? Yamada says they have games from roulette to mahjong, but the real stars are the big, high-stakes tables. Truth is, poker is the real star of the game. The MC's face turns thoughtful as soon as he hears the word poker. For him, it was a surprise, so he asked why the big game is poker and not anything else. After all, he was sure Major was the most popular guy among the Japanese. Yamada points out that since most of the partygoers are Marines, it's almost impossible to act as a major on a ship that's always shaking. The MC asks the boss how much money they want to start betting with. Yamada gives a short reply of 3,001, but our hero is furious because he made 6 times that much just yesterday, and now his big hopes feel completely crushed. The boss stops the kid from bragging and points out that his pay is just 100 times what Jose earns every month, even though Jose still makes huge amounts like 5 to 10,000 a night. The MC agrees but demands that Yamada let him win about 20,001 over time. When he hears the news, Yamada squints in disbelief, but the MC confirms he's about to spend a staggering 7,001 a day for 3 days straight. This time, the angry Yakuza man calls the MCS council to ask if they're messing with him again. Ultimately, he signed that deal because he truly believed in his own talents, knowing that anyone, even someone as clueless as Bubba, could easily lose money if that was all that mattered. The MC agrees that losing money is something anyone can do. But not everyone has the knack for losing money with style, and that very difference is what separates the true masters from the rest. Yamada was confused, so he asked the man to explain what he meant by losing money with style. To show you how it works, the MC asks Shimada to picture himself as a club noble, only for a stranger to walk in and win all the money on day 1, leaving Shimada wondering if he'd welcome this new challenger. But on top of that, this newcomer became so suspicious that everyone kept their eyes glued to every move he made. Yamada says he can't possibly like a person who just stole all his money. The MC wraps it up by saying that if he clears the table right now, nobody will ever want to play with him again. Knowing how to read cards means nothing if no one is willing to sit down and play with you. Yamada doubts the plan, wondering if they're just going to hand out money so they look foolish to the people there. Our hero agrees and reveals he's about to lose a fortune just to look like a bored, wealthy noble. He isn't interested in spending 20,001 in just the first 3 days. Even though he hates the idea, he admits that ruining the kid's reputation right out of the gate would ruin the whole plan. Yamada agrees to use the losses as a business card but warns that 20,000 is way too much, so he tells the MC to lower that number. As he sips his tea in perfect calm, the MC remarks that even if he walks away with nothing from that 20,000, Mr. Yumatada won't suddenly find himself broke either. Yamada snaps under pressure and demands to know what the kid is saying, clearly annoyed that someone thinks a Yakuza boss can't do simple math. The MC grins and says that when he loses cash, Yamada just moves it right back to him. The boss looks truly shocked when he hears this explanation. He even wonders if that trick can really work there since they aren't the ones dealing the cards, which makes everything much more complicated. The MC speaks with total confidence, claiming that if he couldn't handle such a big mess, he never would have gotten into it in the first place. With all the details clear, Yamada finally says yes to the plan. He tells them the operation starts in a few days, giving just enough time for the bubble of punch marks on the MC's face to fade. He also wonders if the MC knows the fancy, old-fashioned words used by nobles who love to talk in that stiff way, and the MC replies that while he has read some old books, he can't really picture how nobles act today. Yamada puts a hand on the kid's shoulder and says, "Don't worry about it. After all, nobles are just like him, people with short tempers." The next scene opens after the 2 days have finally come and gone. Now our hero stands ready for the big night. But Baba, still sour as ever, rushes up all worked up and tells the young woman helping him to stop, because the car is already waiting downstairs. The girl jumps at the sound, quickly bows her head, and says sorry without a moment's delay. But our MC grabs her hand to keep her from walking away. He shouts Bubba's name so loud that every single person in the room hears it. Bubba asks what's happening, and the MC replies that he doesn't realize how important today's job really is. The brute shouts that he knows very well, which is exactly why he's telling the MC to hurry. But the MC argues that being respected on the job matters far more than how fast he can move. Just then, Bubba started to really get on his nerves. The big guy is so mad at the MC's boldness that he can't stop himself from wanting to punch his own boss and partner. To wrap things up, the kid asks Baba to head downstairs and wait outside since he's only getting in the way up here. The big grump huffs and puffs in his usual angry way before finally giving in and obeying. But this time, he had no choice but to walk down the stairs with his head held low. Our boy instantly realizes Baba is furious because his hopeless crush on Sabati is being stolen by some nobody from Joseon. Chabati stepped forward to apologize to the main character, taking full blame for the chaos that had just unfolded. The hero quickly tells her it's not her fault and she's not to blame. After all, she can't be blamed for another guy being a total jerk. With a flustered smile, Subibati thanked him and called our boy young master. To make the moment perfect, our hero gives her one last big kiss, which means their relationship has grown much stronger. Next, our heroes are already on their way to the Gem Up Oak Club. From inside the car, Bubba warns that the MCU better pull off a perfect job, or the big guy will knock his teeth out one by one the moment he messes up. Our boy doesn't even flinch and claps right back if Bubba acts tough, and he's ready to ask that OA bum for a finger as a gift. The big guy quickly closes his mouth, knowing exactly what's coming if the MC's plan succeeds and he wins big. For anyone new to this, a Yakuza might cut off their own finger to apologize to a boss, which is a really painful way to say my bad. After the friendly chat, the car drives on quietly toward the city, and the MC asks if that's the place up ahead. Soon enough, they reach the club's front door, where luxury cars are already bumper to bumper. With the sharp eye of a gambler, the kid figures each car is worth about 20,000, meaning selling them all would net him 100,000. As he walked into the place, he saw that even random couples were dressed in designer clothes, proving he had no choice but to show up in an expensive suit. Yamada stepped closer, bowed, and formally said, "Mr. Cog." RMC welcomes Yada back with a natural ease, as if the two have known each other forever. Yamada quietly warns him not to let his fear of the fancy surroundings show, or they'll both be in big trouble. With total calm, the MC asks if he looked scared when a Yakuza covered in tattoos threatened to pull out his tongue the day before. Yamada nodded in satisfaction and declared that now everyone could go in. The receptionist greeted Mr. Yamada and then asked about the man standing with him. The boss beamed with pride, introducing the MC as Seoji Yuya, fresh from Kyoto. The receptionist's jaw hits the floor as she stares at him, convinced he's the real deal from the legendary Seoji family of the Seed clan. The boss grinned with triumph, confirming he had won. Instantly, the receptionist bows deeply and welcomes Mr. Seoji to the club with great honor before asking him to sign the guest book. RMC grabs the pen and realizes that, so far, everything is unfolding just as Yamada intended. It feels like the name Yuya is so important that the kid has to leave his own mark in the book. Yamada cracks a joke that his huge fortune matters way more than his name or reputation. Seoji is welcomed in, and the two of them walk together into the main hall. Inside, the air buzzes with energy and is packed with important folks. We watch a group of wealthy folks getting drunk and talking loudly at the bar. RMC loves to laugh at how Yamada turned an orphan into Kyoto's top genius in just 2 days. Yamada flashes a smug grin and admits that he's truly amazing at his job. He goes on to say that the butler is about to tell the important people that they have arrived. Right as Yamato mentioned that high society families with daughters were eyeing the MC, someone tapped him on the shoulder. The little old man with a mustache was the one who welcomed Yamada with a warm smile. Yamada quickly smiles back and calls him President Takahashi. Takahashi spots the MC and immediately asks who the handsome stranger is, only to be playfully told by Yamada that everyone already knows him as the proud, brilliant prodigy Aji Yuya from Kyoto. The club president shakes our boy's hand, calling him a nobleman with an air of elegance. But our MC knows Takahashi is just being overly nice, so he stays sharp because the situation feels too suspicious to ignore. As he shakes the MC's hand, the man introduces himself as Takahashi Yuro, the boss of a few small factories that are definitely huge. Shifting the topic, he asks the two of them to come play some poker. Our MC casts a worried glance at Yamada, hoping he'll give the go-ahead. Yamada turns his gaze back to the MC, leaving the choice entirely in his hands. The kid scratched his head and admitted he was embarrassed because he just wasn't very good at poker. Even though it's a big risk, he can't refuse an invite from Takahashi, so he decides to give the game a shot. Feeling thrilled, Takahashi invites everyone to join in, noting that since they're all about the same skill level, the real point is just to chat and have some fun. Yamada smiles and politely says no, admitting he'd much rather play Major instead. On the journey to the game room, Takahashi notes that he hasn't played poker in ages, yet since the sailors don't recognize Major, they decide to play whatever most of them want. RMC watches closely and sees that even though the man acts cool, his eager steps give him away as a poker addict. When they arrive, Takahashi shows them into a room and checks if the cozy atmosphere feels just right. RMC gazes at the massive chandelier hanging from the ceiling and wonders. Just this single light fixture must be worth more than the lives of most people. And to make it even more amazing, the walls are covered in fancy, super expensive paintings. At the poker table, one player greets Takahashi and says he made it right on the clock. Takahashi lets out a laugh and asks the guy if he's just here to take his money again. Not long after, everyone sits down at the table, which is already piled high with drinks and snacks. Takahashi quietly leans in to whisper that Lieutenant Matsui is a dangerous gambler who will snatch all his money in a heartbeat. Matsui catches them and scolds them for blowing things up, insisting that spreading such gossip is wrong and that President Fujiwara is the true master of the game. Fujiwara, sitting quietly in the corner with his suspicious little mustache, just watches the scene unfold without saying a word, and he really doesn't look very friendly. RMC, who can see everything clearly, knows this is a battle of sharp minds between sharks. In the end, there are only two kinds of folks at a poker table: those who think they might win, and those who already know they will. As the gambler Dostoevsky once warned that anyone who walks into a gambling den chasing luck becomes an easy target, Matsui jumps right in to ask the MC if he knows the rules of poker. With a puzzled scratch on his head, the kid admits he doesn't play much but recalls the basics, noting that a royal straight flush is the absolute strongest hand. Matsui gave a smug grin and said that's enough, he can learn the rest by paying for the lesson, which basically means losing money. The MC forces a smile and pleads with them to be gentle, since this is his very first time visiting. Suddenly, the MC jumps up, and Takahashi rushes to ask where he's heading. The kid says he forgot his wallet in his bag and is going to get some cash. Takahashi smiles and says it's not needed, since they'll just use chips to play and settle the bill later. Right before a club employee asks the MC how many chips he wants, the kid fakes surprise and asks if they're really going to trust a stranger without any issues. Matsui sneered and asked if a man from the mighty Japanese empire would ever break his promise. Inside, the MC is furious because this guy has no right to talk about honor after lying and tricking the entire nation of Jose but since he has to keep up the act, the kid puts on a smile, says it's all good, and asks to trade 6,001 for some chips. The amount left the other players looking completely shocked. The MC calmly confirms the employee's request. Takahashi and Fujiwara are totally stunned and don't get why the kid is so bold. Matsui grins slyly to himself, figuring that if he doubles the normal buy-in to 3,000, everyone will think he's just an easy mark waiting to be beaten. The employee slides over the chips but warns that 5% is always taken off, leaving the MC with 5,700 chips. Our hero figured that this fee was just the perfect way for the club to pay for those fancy parties and get the money they really need. With his sharp business sense, BMC realizes that just 10 people swapping chips daily brings in a profit, but when the full house arrives, it's a fortune, so he sets his math aside and asks the dealer if he can start dealing. Matsui was the first to drop a chip on the table and tell the man to deal the cards. The narrator says that to play each round, you have to pay a small fee of 10 to 1. Holding his chip, the MC thinks that it might not seem